The presenting sponsor of Andrew Talks to Chefs is Mies. Mies is the chef-created recipe operating system that makes your professional kitchen life easier with unprecedented tools for recording, scaling, analyzing, costing, and teaching recipes. Much of it at the press of a virtual button. Learn more at getmees.com/Andrew. That's GETMEEZ.com/Andrew. This episode of Andrew Talks to Chefs is supported in part by S.Pellegrino Sparkling Natural Mineral Water. For the past 125 years, S.Pellegrino has supported the art of fine dining in all of its ever-changing forms and nurtured the next generation of chefs through resources and mentorship. To learn more, visit sanpellegrino.com.
I'm Massimo Bottura.
This is Amanda Cohen.
This is David Kinch.
This is Mike Anthony.
This is Hooni Kim.
This is Amanda Freitag.
This is Richard Blaze.
This is Paul Kahn.
This is Curtis Stone.
This is Stephen Harris.
This is Missy Robbins.
And you're listening to Andrew Talks to Chefs.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is Andrew Talks to Chefs. I am your host, Andrew Friedman. I hope all of you out there are doing okay this week. Our guest today is an old friend of mine and an old friend of the podcast, and that is Allison Robicelli. You may remember Allison from her appearances here when we did our Shelter on Plus movie conversations in the dark days of the COVID pandemic. That was certainly a fun time for me during an otherwise not so great time. And Allison has been meaning to come on the show. I've been meaning to have her on the show forever. I'm thrilled that she is finally here, and I will properly introduce her in just a moment. Before I do, I want to encourage all of you younger chefs and aspiring chefs out there, and by younger, I mean 30 and younger. I'd like to encourage you to apply to the San Pellegrino Young Chef Academy competition. The applications portion of the program closes next Tuesday, June 9th. That's right around the corner, but it is plenty of time to get your application together. I linked to where you can do that and also to where you can read more about the program in the episode description for this show. And I just want to say, as I did on our last episode, I've spent quite a bit of time around this competition. I 1 year interviewed all of the 10 North American finalists and gave a feature-length interview to the gentleman who won that competition. I've moderated panels, which have accompanied the finals here in New York a couple of times. I've written about the competition a little. I know some people who have either finaled or won in the United States, just socially or professionally, just from my goings around the industry. It's a program, and I have to say, obviously, San Pellegrino is a longtime supporter of this show. That aside, personally, I think this is a wonderful program. It's a wonderful opportunity. It encourages mentorship and the mentors that they bring in to help the individual competitors figure out what they're going to do and to work with them. It's always a top-notch group that anybody would be thrilled to work with. And if you win the first round, it's a 2-year program. So if you win the first round, then next year, you go to the finals in Milan and compete on the global level. It's just a wonderful program. I'd encourage you, again, if you are 30 or younger, there are some other qualifiers, but I don't want to slow down the introduction here, and you can easily read about them. There are 2 links in the episode description for today's show. One takes you to information about the program, and one takes you directly to the application. I would really encourage you to give a look. It's an amazing chance to grow. And depending on where you're based, it's an opportunity to spend time in cities you may not get to, maybe even to a country you haven't been to before or happen to be fond of. I know I am, and that would be Italy. So give that a look. I really think you will get something out of it, and I would encourage you to do that. I also have to do a little bit of housekeeping here at the beginning of today's show. I'm a little self-conscious about it because I've been trying to keep these introductions on the shorter side, but there's some changes afoot here on the podcast. And I saw something last week on Instagram, and it's funny because I know we all think of Instagram as kind of something that probably takes up more of our time than it should, something that possibly wastes all the time we spend on it, as a necessary evil that we use to promote the things that we're trying to promote and sell and further our own businesses and endeavors. But once in a while, and I'm sure this has happened to you come across just the right clip at the right time and you think, my God, this just made everything seem crystal clear to me. So that happened to me recently. I saw an interview, I don't know from when, with Herbie Hancock, and he was describing a time when he was jamming with Miles Davis. And Herbie made a mistake in the song. So maybe I shouldn't say jamming. They were playing a song. Herbie made a mistake. And rather than being thrown by the mistake, Miles Davis, genius that he was, adapted to it and made it seem as if that was what was supposed to happen. And he just went with that. And Herbie Hancock says in this little video that that taught him something. And I have to say, listening to Herbie Hancock talk about it was just what I needed, because a couple of things have been going on here. One is my dear friend Rodaline, my friend of over 30 years, has had to leave the show for other opportunities, and it's totally great. He and I are still very good friends, and I thank him for spending almost a year with us. I thank him for helping me get the video version of the show up on the air. I thank him for his moral support in addition to his technical and producerial prowess. But all of that means that I am now flying solo not long after converting to video. I love our location at Gage and Tollner Restaurant. Thank you, Gage and Tollner, for letting us film there. But to film a video show on my own, at least to the standard that I would like to do it, which would be to the standard that you all have seen come out of those shoots at Gage and Tollner, I just can't do it myself. I don't have the know-how. I can't be behind the camera and also on camera. I can't monitor sound. I can't do any of that stuff. It's just not plausible. And this has led me, after Herbie Hancock's example, to go with this flow and look at what's happened in the interim. And what's happened in the interim is, because we can't film in person, but we are now a video show, I am doing something that I said I would never do here on the regular. We had to do it during COVID, but that is do remote shows. I've always insisted on interviewing in person. I think it's absolutely essential. I think there's no replacement for the energy in a space when two people are together. I like the intimacy. I also, if I'm honest, when we switched to the live location, as much as I love that space, I've never felt quite myself. I'm sitting kind of, angled toward the guest, right? And it's not truly face to face. I'm ever aware of the camera. So we start doing these remote interviews, and I've aired a couple already, and I am also have a couple that I'm sitting on that are going to come out soon. And I have to say, I kind of like it. It's intimate. There's not a crew present. I mean, nothing was ever wrong with our crew, but the larger issue is it's just more people in the room, and people become a little more guarded sometimes, or more self-conscious, or whatever. And I have especially found this format to be great, I think, with people with whom I have a long-term friendship. Scott Conant was recently on the show, and Scott and I just jumped right into a conversation that I don't think was appreciably different than it would have been if we were in the same space. So we're doing this by remote for a while. If you have any feedback on it, I'd love to hear it. And I should also say that I am now doing all the editing for the show, and that means I can't fuss over the episodes as much as I would like to. I do love editing. I loved learning how to do sound editing and mixing. I've really enjoyed learning how to video edit, and had actually been working on a new software that was going to make it easier for me to incorporate 3 different camera angles. That will come and go in the coming weeks and months. It may be just a static 2-shot, although I do still edit the episodes. Basically, it's going to be whatever I have time to do well and deliver a show weekly, which we failed to do for the last 2 weeks as I was adjusting. But again, we have a few in the bank now, and I have a regular schedule worked out, and that should be fine. So some episodes you may see intercut amongst 3 cameras, some 2 cameras, some you may see artwork incorporated, some will just be what today's episode is, which is a static 2-shot. If I'm really honest, I don't know why we're doing video podcasts. To me, the great thing about podcasts was you listen in the car, you listen in the gym, you listen as you're going to sleep at night. You're listening when you're walking around a city like New York, where if you're like me, you walk all the time. The lack of video to me was it is still the way I use podcasts, one of the great things. So I don't feel like this is any great loss. If you do enjoy watching podcasts, I think that's great. That's why we're now doing it in video and spending as much time as I do. I don't think the episodes suffer terribly, but it's just in my nature to want to make them as dynamic as possible. So my goal in the short term and certainly in the long term is to get back to multi-camera editing and the incorporation of archival photographs and whatnot from the guests and all of that. So we'll see how it goes. I'm just mentioning that the show, as it I guess has been really for the whole 9 years it's existed, is in a bit of a state of flux. Only this state of flux is very deliberate and intentional, as they say, and I will leave it at that. So, as I say, our guest today is Allison Robicelli. Allison, I refer to as my most improbable friend. We actually talk about that in the interview. People who know both of us might be surprised that we're such good friends, but we've known each other for quite a while. Much of that time has been long distance, as she now lives in Baltimore and has for the past decade. But we've spoken on the phone quite often. We text quite a bit. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Allison was a participant in our Shelter on Plus movie conversations, which we put up. I think we did 8 of them, and it was a weekly Friday thing we did in the early days of the pandemic just to offer up something to kind of get cooks and chefs and industry people's minds off what was going on for about half an hour or so. Those were great fun. Allison has been a chef. She's been a consultant. She's been a storyteller and still is, I guess, still is a consultant. She's a writer. She's had various columns, including at the Washington Post. And I should say, going into this, in a way, this conversation or this interview finally got scheduled because we wanted to do it forever in a text exchange she and I were having about how she's looking to get involved in new projects. So if you know of Allison and this is a helpful reminder, or if you see this interview and think, oh, that's someone I'd like to maybe work with or hire for something, Allison is definitely looking for new collaborations. And I do link to where you can read more about her and reach out to her in the episode notes for today's show. This conversation is incredibly far-ranging. We talk about Allison's career, how she ended up going into cooking in the first place, the bakery that she used to co-own in Brooklyn, why she moved to Baltimore. But on the edges of all of that, we talk about friendship, travel, the profession and where it's going, society and where it's going, whether or not we're approaching the end times. It's a lot for an hour and 10 minutes or so. It's a lot. I have to say, I had such a good time doing this interview, and I mentioned a few minutes ago the conversation with Scott Conant. Part of me wonders if I should only book people I've known for a long time, because the rapport and the energy that comes through, it's just, I don't know. It's just, sometimes it happens with new guests, but it's really kind of unique, I think, and special. And I think I may get more and more old friends on the show. And it also just lets us go wherever the conversation goes. As much as this show is for all of you out there in the industry who listen, my favorite episodes tend to be the ones that aren't strictly concerned with career, but run off on a number of tangents. And this one certainly does that. And I don't think I need to say anything more about it. So with that, I'm going to get you to it. Here is my conversation with my pal, Allison Robicelli. Here you go.
some sense of this.
All right, Allison Robicelli, I feel like this is something that should have happened years ago.
Yeah, well, but we've known each other for a long time. I've met so many people in my life, and I still continue to meet so many people in my life. And I'm so blessed that that's one of those things in my life that I am always counting my blessing for, that I've met so many incredible people, and it never stops. There's so many people out there in the world that I haven't loved yet. And I haven't discovered yet, and they're all out there. And yeah, I keep attracting dope people to my life. So yeah.
Well, that's a gift. That's a gift.
Yeah, it's
Because
great.
I'm kind of like, I'm like a closed medical practice. Or like a rent control department. Someone has to die to make room for somebody else.
I have
a very bandwidth. I can't be the kind of friend I want to be to any more people.
I get that. I have a very small inner circle, but then I'm constantly out and meeting new people all the time. I'm a very social animal. I have to write in coffee shop. I don't know if you're like this. Are you a writer that has to be in a room locked away from all distractions?
I go through multiple phases and sometimes in the same day. Sometimes I have I want to work in my living room because it's sunny. And then sometimes I want to work in my office where I am right now because it's an interior space and I can turn off the lights and put music on and light a candle and it's like I'm in my own bubble. And then sometimes I want to go to a coffee shop or the weather we have now. For the first time this year, I went and wrote in the park last week, which was fantastic.
I need to get out of the house once a day or else I will stay home too much. And I'm really intentional about that. I grew up in New York City, and I think that is very much a city thing where your home is where you sleep and where you do your necessity things, but where you live is outside. My kids, I told them when they were young, I was like, your playgrounds and the parks, those are your yard. And the coffee shops around me, those are my living room. And you're supposed to be going out. We need third places. Everybody complains about third places, but I'm like, dude, you don't use them, we won't have them. You've got to go out. You've got to do things. You have to participate. And it's not hard. People always say it's so hard making friends as an adult. That is a total lie. If everyone is saying that, that means everybody wants to make friends. And everybody's just too scared. All you got to do is you say hi to people and you talk to them. And then you say, hey, it's the same way kids do it. And yeah, I meet a lot of people. What I've been doing for work is I've been doing a lot of traveling and finding stories I love traveling to weird little cities. I don't want to go to freaking Paris. I don't want to go to Hawaii. I want to go to Buffalo, New York. I just got back from Jacksonville. I like going to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I like finding all these amazing people and interesting things. And then I connect those people to good writers and editors and people who should be telling their story. Because no one's looking at the little places and nobody's talking to those people. And that's where all the cool shit's happening. I don't like places where everybody is doing the same thing. I don't like the idea of vacationing and saying oh, I'm going to go to the beach. And then I hate the beach. There's a lot of sand there and it's hot. And then I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with myself. And people just sit there and look at the water. And I'm like, I came here to do that. I don't understand this. I like going to places and being delightfully surprised, and I'm like, I should not have fun in Jacksonville, Florida. Nobody ever goes, oh, I really want to go to Jacksonville. You just end up there. And then you end up there and you're like, how do I find the most fun? It's like a treasure hunt. There's some stuff there. I ended up staying. My hotel was this old funeral home.
Of course it was.
It was. It was amazing.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I don't believe you. I'm just saying that of course it was.
Of course it was.
Of course that's where Allison Robicelli stayed.
If you tell me there's an old funeral home and it's a hotel now, I absolutely want to see it. I love seeing weird stuff. I love those are the things that make life. Those are our personalities. Those are our things. And again, this is for me. This is what I do. So it's not for everybody. I have a very good friend. She's like, I just want to go to a beach and lie down and not think about anything. And I was like, that's cool. That's perfect for you. But my job is in between that. My job is to find cool places like you would never have heard of and say, oh, hey, like we can't afford to go to Disney World this year. We can't afford to fly anywhere because all the airlines are super expensive now. But like we can drive 3 hours to Pittsburgh or Toledo or wherever. And I'm like, I'm going to find you a good time there. Like you could be delighted no matter where you go. And a lot of that comes to talking, like from talking to people. And I'm very good at talking to people. They find me very charming, even though I look and I sound like this.
Something you just said, and we don't need to get into what it is, reminded me, you know, when we first met, there was a chocolate tasting at Serious Eats.
Oh yeah, the
And
white
we were
chocolate
two of the tasters brought in for the blind tasting. That's the first time we met.
We are so lucky that we've lived such ridiculous lives full of incredible stories that we can sometimes just forget about them.
That's true.
Like, oh, like I did this white chocolate tasting with like a bunch of cool people at Serious Eats, and I decided what was the best white chocolate in the world.
Yeah.
And I had completely forgotten about that till right this very second.
That's where we met. The other thing is, and then we'll fully devote to you, but you're maybe my most improbable friend.
I love that.
Well,
I love that.
it makes no. I mean, look at us.
Yeah, look at us.
It makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, I mean, I would think to you, I would just be like, you know, I always say that it's an outdated reference. It definitely dates me, but you know, when people find out what, you know, new friends find out what I do, and I tell them, you know, most of my friends are chefs, and they're like, what? And I'm like, look at it this way. I'm Richie Cunningham, and they're all collectively Arthur Fonzarelli. Like, I just feel like I'm the perpetual straight man to like everybody else in my life.
That's amazing though, because like the straight man is the one who always gets the best lines. Like a good straight man is hard to find. It is hard being a weird girl. When you are a weird girl and you are off on your own, you are just like, you are pure and mitigated chaos. And the straight man is the thing that actually makes you funny. The straight man is the thing that gets you to laugh. A room full of Fonzes is annoying as hell. Like I've been a chef, I've been a writer, I've done all sorts of things in and around the hospitality industry in my life. And yeah, you don't want to be surrounded by a lot of people like you. And I don't think chefs are as cool as everybody thinks they are. And
No.
again, I've been one. And
not once you get to the like, there are certain, there's the veneer of cool, and then there's certain common habits. And people may think by that I'm talking about substance and stuff. I'm not. I'm talking about communication habits. I'm talking about things like that, and emotional availability.
It's not an easy lifestyle.
No.
It's, you know, it's something that is very all-consuming. It is something that took up a chapter of my life, and I'm happy it was that chapter, but I realized through that chapter, I'm like, this can't be permanent.
Right.
I think that's the sense with a lot of stuff, or at least it is for me. I'm not somebody who, like, the world keeps changing and I keep changing with it. And when you're locked into something, especially with as crazy as the world and stuff has become, the definition of your role changes. Like when I started as a chef back in like 2001, 2002, you know, I was a kid and I just wanted to feed people. I just wanted to cook and feed people and have that emotional connection and tell stories through food. And then things change, and then you own a business, and then it becomes about money. And then also remember 2001, 2002, like this was not a glamorous job. It was still a job for ne'er-do-wells and addicts. And the reason it attracts, it's like I have raging ADHD, and it really is a great career for the neurodivergent, because I don't have to socialize with people from 9 to 5. Like I get to work in the opposite hours. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of camaraderie. It's not a traditional, like I can't sit at a desk. I lose my mind if I'm at a desk. I can't be in Zoom meetings, and I can't be in a corporate environment. So all these people who don't like fit in neatly to boxes and places, they find themselves in the kitchen. And the thing that attracted me to food in the first place was that it's the only thing outside of oxygen and water that connects every human being on the planet. There's no subjective nature about that. Like, we need food to survive. So anything that you want in life can be explored in some relation through food, whether it's science or history, anthropologists, sociology, language,
Economics.
economics, everything you can think of can somehow be explored through food. So I think a lot of neurodivergent people who are inherently curious, it's a great thing that attracts them. But again, I've been doing this, I got to do math. Oh my God, it's like 25 years. Wow, that wasn't fun. I hate doing math. But yeah, your nature, the nature of the role and what it is changes. Like when I was young, it drove me nuts where, like, you'd say like, oh, the head chef, they're never in the kitchen. They're never actually doing the work. And then you become the head chef and you're like, I have no time to be in the kitchen, and then like the people who have the money are like propping you up like a show dog and showing you off to their friends. And then you have to and then you're like, wait a second, this isn't cooking at all. This isn't, the rules of the game have changed. The landscape has changed. I've changed. And you end up being like 1,000 different people. It's not just chopping onions. It's so much more than that.
So you alluded, you were like, I've been a chef, I've been a writer. How do you today, sitting here on May 18, 2026, how do you're meeting one of these new people you talk about meeting all the time. And they say, what do you do? How do you professionally define yourself at this moment in time?
I had a friend, I hate this term because I think it's so pretentious, but he was like, you're kind of like a cultural consultant. And I like, people are just making up words now. So that's that. But I consider myself a professional storyteller. And I am very good at finding stories and also kind of like creating stories. Everything is a story. That is all that any of us are. We are just a big web of billions of stories smashing in together. And in a world that's driven by algorithms and bots and all sorts of things, I still think humanity is very important. And I go out and I find the humanness in places. I find the humanness in things. I find the interesting stories that are actually worth telling. And stories are so important. They are so important. They remind us of why we're here and why we're doing this. And they remind us what we're supposed to be working towards and fighting for. I find now more than ever, stories are so essential for hope, because it's really easy to write things off and to lose hope. Like back to Jacksonville last week when I was in Jacksonville looking for interesting things, I ended up in this park. They were dedicating a waterfront park to Jacksonville's musical legacy, which is Limp Bizkit, which I have an anthropological fascination with Limp Bizkit and all Limp Bizkit associated things. So anyway, this coincidentally was happening right while I was there, and I'm going down to this park and I'm looking around, and this woman says hello to me because she sees how much I'm laughing, and I'm just delighted by all of this. And it turns out she's this beautiful 38-year-old Black woman who is a historian and a goth. And she's like, oh, I see you're having a great time. And I'm having a great time. And she had her daughter with her. And she's like, you want to come to the playground with us and talk? And I was like, I absolutely do. So we end up talking for like 30 minutes. And then she starts telling me about all these underground art spaces and zine presses and places where local activists, the African-American community, are getting together. So that night I end up at this gallery closing, listening to this artist talk about these people who are, indigenous and Latino, from all different communities, talking about displacement and gentrification. And then coming from the North, like I've only lived in New York City and I've lived the past 10 years in Baltimore. And a lot of us hate Florida, for in this current political climate, like Florida man, Florida national embarrassment. We tend to write it off and like just say, let it break off into the ocean and let the alligators have it back. And then you go down there and then you remember, wait, no, these are a lot of longstanding communities, places that have generational roots going back centuries. This is their land and they're still fighting for it. And they're still fighting for dignity. And when we just kind of just say, oh, fuck Florida, like, I'm not going to listen to it. You forget that if you don't go out and you don't seek those stories and you don't remember, like, hey, you know, we are custodians of this earth for such a tiny, tiny little bit of time. We're all here. We're all like infinite, like, you know, microscopic specks in the fabric of time. And we're not it. We're not the ending point. You know, we are not.
We might be. Well,
we might be.
This generation, we might be.
Like, I don't want to be, and that should be concerning.
I would have agreed with that statement up until about 3 years ago, but this actually might be the end of time.
Yeah, it is. And we've been here for 300,000 years. And 99% of that, more than 99% of that time, we were in caves. We were all sitting around like licking moss off rocks and smacking each other with clubs. And now we have this like incredible abundance. We have air conditioning, we have toilets, we have like vaccines and medicine and things. And when we don't go out and we don't find our stories and we don't go and see how we're connected to the past or what got us here, or you know, remembering the people before us, they weren't just sacrificing everything so that one day we might live. Like, it's also our job as people to be doing things for the next generation. We're just moving the football down the field. So yeah, in a world where we're starting to lose access to those types of stories, like, that's what I do. I go out and I find them. The need for everything is still there. Our business models are just gone. But that means we just get to build new ones. We build new roads to where we're going.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I want to impose a little discipline on this conversation because you and I have a tendency to we could do a show called Tangents.
I'm a fascinating gal, Mr. Friedman.
Well, we just, you know, we get off on tangents and then we get to the matter at hand, which in this case is your story. Speaking of stories.
Yes.
All right. So let's start talking about your story.
My story.
You are from New York City originally.
Yep, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, third generation born there.
And tell us a little bit about what your childhood looked like.
Well, my childhood was very loud and Italian. Brooklyn in the 80s and 90s was like my shitty hometown. And I realize now how good I had it. You know, hindsight is always 2020. But yeah, New York City is my shitty hometown. I went to Stuyvesant in Manhattan. I didn't go to a lot of classes. I cut a lot of classes to go smoke weed in Washington Square Park and get into trouble and go to clubs and things I wasn't supposed to be doing. I wanted to go into landmarks preservation. I was going to the New School for a bit to study New York City history. And then 5 days before my 21st birthday, I found out I had stage 4 cancer. And I had to drop out of school. And then 5 weeks after that was 9/11. It was a really bad fall. And yeah, it sucked. I was like told that maybe I had 4 months or maybe a year, or they're like, we just don't know. We just don't know. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And suddenly, like, all the work that I was doing and I'd done my whole life, it just didn't seem like there was any point to it. It was like, what was I preparing for? And I'm like, well, at least I'm going to be funny. So I had that going for me. And then after I started kind of like settling into the chemo a bit, I was like, I don't want to lose a year of my life to cancer. I don't want to just say like, hey, this 1 year I sat here and had cancer and that was it. So I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to cook. And I'd always had a really big interest in cooking because of the, like, you know, growing up Italian, we like, you can't cry if your mouth is full of food. So we used to eat all the time. Like, that's how Italians shut each other up. You just put a cannoli in it.
Wow. I usually hear it as that's how Italians show love to people.
Yeah. We're shutting each other up because they can't say anything to you if their mouth's full.
Hey, everybody. Andrew here. I want to encourage you to check out our presenting sponsor, Mies. Not because they're our sponsor, but because Mies exists to make your kitchen life easier. Mies is the chef-created recipe operating system for culinary professionals. What that means is that Mies is a virtual place to house all of your recipes, and just as importantly, it enables you to derive all kinds of information from them: food costs, allergen data, yield loss, unit conversions, and nutritional breakdowns, and also to scale them up or down, and even to cost them, and to do most of that at the press of a virtual button. Mies is also a teaching tool that empowers you to incorporate how-to photos and videos to illustrate individual recipe steps and techniques, which is especially useful and time-saving for multi-unit organizations. The basic version of Mies is free for the entire culinary industry. Upgrade to premium and let Mies make your entire business more efficient and centralized. Train and onboard team members, manage production, and even process invoices. Seriously, if you work with recipes in the pro kitchen or bar, Mies was built for you and will make your entire restaurant's or company's kitchen life easier. And as a listener of Andrew Talks to Chefs, receive 25 free recipe uploads and breakdowns on your new Mies account by signing up today. Learn more at getmeez, that's GETMeez.com/Andrew. Simply click through via the link on the episode description for today's show.
I'd always loved like reading cookbooks when I was young. I liked reading them a lot more than like actual novels and like putting the stuff into my head. Again, did not know I was neurodivergent until much later in life. It's all tracks up. So yeah.
Well, none of us did, Alice, right? I mean, you're younger than I am, but none of us knew we were. I mean, there's stuff that applies to me officially that I've been diagnosed with.
Yeah.
I didn't even know some of these phrases when I was young.
I was a lot. That's it. It's like if you look at
A handful. You're a handful.
A handful. Like she's spunky. She asks a lot of questions.
Cooking. You start teaching yourself how to cook.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. I'm like, maybe I could do this like for a job. I didn't understand anything about the world at this point, like suddenly we're at war with Iraq and we're getting attacked American soil and I'd almost died and I might not make it past 30. And I'm like, what's the point? And then the thing I mentioned before about food, where I was like, I just thought it was just about cutting things up and making them into something good. And then I was like, no, this is everything. This is everything about being human. Like anything that I want to explore or discover or ask questions about, I can find a way into that through food.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
A couple of questions. One is, you've used the term neurodivergent a few times. A lot of people who fall in that lane talk about they have this overactive mind, their attention is all over the place.
Yeah.
They describe, to use your word, the shenanigans they got into as kids, which is a very euphemistic phrase usually for something pretty, sometimes involving police officers and things.
Sometimes.
Then they say, then I started cooking and it's like, it just calmed my mind. I could focus. Everything else kind of fell away. Did you experience any of that?
Yeah, it's hyper focus. It's
right away. Like when you started cooking at home, did you start noticing that you were a happier person when you were engaged in that?
Sometimes I realized I was very much in that when like my brain never stops. I have 1,000 thoughts all the time and it is exhausting. But it was so much fun with food because like there would be a through line and I would always be able to ask another question and find out more stuff. And then when I would be cooking, you get that like hyper focus where it's just like everything else falls away and you get to live very presently in your own brain and your body is like going through the motions. And when you have ADHD, you're thinking about everything. You're thinking about where your body is in space. You're thinking about every decision you have to make. Things that are autopilot for other people, that doesn't really happen all the time with us. So then if you start getting into certain routines, like dancing or cooking or things where suddenly now you don't have to think about your own body. There's like muscle memory. It's like putting down half the weight you're carrying. It's like, oh, my body it knows how to do this innately, and now let it go, and then I can be alone with 1,000 thoughts instead of 10,000 thoughts. It's very freaking relaxing. It's the same reason I listen to the music that I do. I took you to see Dillinger Escape Plan with me, and I explained that.
Well, you can't just say that like as if we're both fans of theirs.
Yeah, you're not.
Can we say what happened? Was this?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Was this 1 or 2 years ago?
This was 2 years ago.
Okay, so 2 years ago next month. This was
Yes.
June of 24. I go on Instagram at like 4:30 in the afternoon, and you had posted that morning saying, all of my friends have either gotten too old or, I'm not going to use the word, but wimped out. Put that in what we could call a feline way. You expressed that in a feline way.
I love that you remember this.
My memory is perfect. It's always been that way. It's a blessing and a curse. But anyway,
I get that.
You had posted that, and I texted you and I said, I assume you found somebody, but if not, I will go with you. And you hadn't found anybody, amazingly. So
I still can't believe you went. It's still insane to me that you responded.
This is our improbable friendship.
I love that. That's what I love about it.
I mean,
so
how did I end up? What do we call it? Metalcore? Do they fall in the metalcore category?
Yes, they're mathcore. So they are they're like metal and hardcore, but it's also a lot of jazz. The way I describe Dillinger Escape Plan to people is like it's all the music happening at the same time. The first time I heard them, they were a local band, and I was like maybe 19 or 20. I think I was 20 years old. I saw them in this dark club in Brooklyn called L'Amour, which used to be like a laundry factory, and now I think it's just a regular factory. It had a little brief life as a club, and they came out, and I never heard anything like them. It's like there's also like jazz fusion in there, and it was just insane. And suddenly there was something about it that made my brain calm and quiet. And hardcore and metal you'll meet a lot of line cooks who are into hardcore and metal too. Like,
well, you told me when I posted about being there, you're like, you're going to get so much cred with line cooks.
Yeah, you are.
I have to say, I did hear from a lot of followers like, what?
That's amazing. Like, yeah, there's something about all of that together that it is so calming and soothing to me. And I can understand objectively. I'm like, literally any normal person brain who's listening to Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter, again, nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into, but you would not understand it. And
no, but there was also, I mean, there was a mosh pit.
There's lots of pits.
There were guys who were hurled at us.
Yes, like there's something so cathartic about all of that noise and all of that chaos, and it calms you, and that can happen in a professional kitchen where the madness and everything going on. And like, I would love doing events. Like, I really enjoyed catering a lot more than restaurant work. Because in catering, I would get to like really spend time with the food, preparing the food. Like, it wasn't about speed. It wasn't about, the routine or the motions for me. It was about like really getting to understand it and learn it and tell a story. And then when an event happens, then you got that side of it where I'm like, everything needs to be perfect. And also in events, it's an environment where everybody has an attitude, and there are a lot of people there who think they are way more important than they are. And like, everything seems so high stakes and crazy. It's like a soap opera. It's not just like a boring line at a restaurant. It's like somebody in that room, this is the most important thing that has ever happened ever. And yeah, there's this beautiful kind of poetry about it, like the temporary family in the service industry, the feel. Like, my son has actually been at a restaurant now for a year, and some people just left the job, and he's like mourning them a little bit, and he's like, I don't know if we'll be able to find somebody that fits in as well. And I was like, that's the beauty of this industry, buddy, is you can make families wherever you go. You can come in and just be in a place for like a week or so, but things close, things change, things move. And another thing that attracted me to the business was that no matter where in the world I go, there's a need for it, so you have that freedom.
And that will persist. At least in large part, maybe not 100%, but that will survive the AI
Yeah.
onslaught that's headed our way, right?
Anything, yeah.
Restaurants are still going to be there.
Restaurants are going to be different. Restaurants are going to be very, very different, and they should be different. Like, one of the reasons I owned a place for like 10 years, Robicelli's Bakery, we were like pioneers of the Brooklyn food scene, which was a time back in the days of yore where things were like, it's just, I was thinking about it the other day, how wild it is. Like, we were just all like a bunch of kids, like in warehouses, like just making stuff and having fun, and not thinking how much everything was going to change after that. It was like being in an indie rock band. Like, like Danielle and everybody, those were like the proper rock stars. And we were like these scrappy kids in Brooklyn. We were just like, hey, like, let's get together and throw a pop-up in a park on the bank of, like, it's not even a park, like an abandoned lot on the banks of the Gowanus Canal. And like, we'll do like cupcakes and techno. And, it was just fun. And it was, new, and it was exciting, and it was very separate from like the stuff we'd see in like the city. Like Manhattan was where we all went to like go to work, and Manhattan was always full of people who weren't from actually New York. Like when I was like in high school, we used to go to all these gallery openings because they would give us free wine. And like, I didn't care about the art. They were just like, oh, youth, here, have some boxed wine in a plastic cup. And
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I remember so vividly, like, walking around and seeing all these like adults, and like these are people in like their 20s and stuff, and I'm like, they all look like none of them were from New York, and they all looked like they were playing dress up, and they all looked miserable, like they were trying to fit in so bad, and nobody actually looked happy. And I'm like, this just doesn't. I don't like this. But then you go to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is like, yeah, we're rough around the edges, and we don't like you either.
A quick note of thanks to one of our promotional partners, S.Pellegrino Sparkling Natural Mineral Water. For the past 125 years, S.Pellegrino has supported the art of fine dining in all of its ever-changing forms and nurtured the next generation of chefs through resources and mentorship. To learn more, visit sanpellegrino.com.
So you should say, when you, like, certainly the time you grew up, I lived in Brooklyn very briefly when I was 21. But the time you grew up in Brooklyn, I mean,
was Brooklyn.
It's almost hard to explain to younger people today how, I mean, it might as well have been Queens. You know, might as well, I mean, it was Manhattan, and then it was everything else.
Yeah.
And it was totally normal, even if you lived in Brooklyn, to say, I'm going into the city, which some people still say, but I don't say that now because I live in Brooklyn. When I lived here in my 20s, it was for budgetary reasons. But when I moved back to the city 3.5 years ago, our sights were set on Brooklyn. I wanted to be in Brooklyn.
And where you are, you're in downtown Brooklyn. And when I was a kid, that was a ghost town, and it was dangerous. It was so dangerous. It's very, very different, like what happened to Brooklyn, which is why, like, we had this bakery, we were famous, I was on TV, I did the book, all of that. But then 10 years ago, we packed it up and we moved to Baltimore. And a huge part of that for me was, like, the bakery is famous, but I'm not like making any money. You're getting famous, but everybody else is taking a part of it. And then you start, like, every time you do something good, then a developer comes and like ruins the neighborhood. And I'm like, I don't know if I can ethically do anything. like how do you do stuff without understanding that you, who was, again, just trying to teach some people how to cook because you had cancer, now I'm an angel of death. And everything I do, I'm like, oh, there goes the neighborhood. I'm like, I'm from here. I'm just trying to make my neighborhood better. That's all I want to do. And my ex-husband, who was my partner, and like, we're working all the time, and we're not ending up with anything to show for it. It's just like, oh, you're a little bit more famous. Well, more people are going to take from you now. So you have to work even harder and harder. The way I ended up down here was I went on Facebook. This was 2015. And I posted, I was like, guys, I got to leave New York City. I never in my life thought I'd leave Brooklyn. I didn't even know what was out there. Like, I drive out, there's Jersey, you turn around, you come back. You're like, that is not for me, whatever's out there.
Like that old New Yorker cover, right?
Yeah.
The New Yorker view of the world, right?
And that was it. Like, Brooklyn is my baseline. That's the universe to me. And everything is compared to that. And I was 35 years old when this happened, by the way. I was 35. So I'm a very grown-ass woman. and I don't know where to go. And Marissa Dobson, she's in food as well. She posted, she's like, I just moved to Baltimore, and it reminds me a lot of like the Brooklyn that you write about when you write about like back in the day. So I came down here, and within an hour, I was like, this is it. Like, this place feels like, I really should not say this out loud. Please don't move here. It feels like New York City did in the 80s and 90s. But so many people are scared to come here, and nothing's happened to me in 10 years. If you're not buying and selling hard drugs, for the most part, you're going to be okay.
I've always loved Baltimore.
This city is so cool.
Yeah.
This city is so, like, like 2 nights ago, I ended up going to a jazz concert in a old stable in an alley a block from my house, like 50 feet from where I put out my garbage. And it was free, and the jazz was incredible. There's just so much history and art and culture, and the music scene, the hardcore scene in particular, is insane. The art is getting, as times are getting worse and worse, the art is getting more ferocious. Artists can afford to live here. Like, I have a friend who's got a 1-bedroom apartment for $850.
Can we also say?
Yes.
The home of John Waters.
Yes. John Waters lives a few blocks from me. Like,
is that right?
Yeah. I see him around,
Oh, wow. Please give him my best.
He is exactly what you would imagine he is.
He has to be.
Yeah, he is. He is like, you're in his presence. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you're almost not human, but like, you're incredible. I want to highlight this place, Red Emma's in Baltimore. So Red Emma's is a communist cafe, restaurant, coffee shop, bookstore. It's been around like about 20 years, and they're worker owned. It's a worker owned collective. And last year they had a conference here in Baltimore. Like, they actually do consulting all over the country and help workers come together to collectively own, purchase, and run their restaurants. We have Mira Kitchen Collective here in Baltimore, which is a group of refugee women. And then, last year they had a conference where they were teaching people how to create these business models, and other collectives from all over the country were coming in and showing how they're doing it. And like, they've been doing it for 20 years. They still sell coffee for $1. They don't make any money off of it, but they know it's needed. It's a service. And that's the thing about restaurants. They are a need. They are a service. They are not something that we make to make a profit. That's not the point. Restaurants, nobody's there to get rich.
Mario Carbone is.
Okay, well, he is. But the majority of restaurants in the world,
He'll be the first to tell you.
Yeah. But he also has a partner.
Just give him a microphone, and it's like in the first 3 things he says.
I could go do fancy pants shit, and I hate fucking pants. If that's for him, good for him. There's people who like that, and that's fine. They're not coming to my shows. I'm not coming to theirs. That's great. But yeah, some of us are street rats from Brooklyn who like the detritus of the world. If you're home, and if the world's gotten so expensive that you have to be home, you forget why we're here. And I hate that. These community-owned restaurants, these cooperative restaurants, that is going to be the future for a lot of us. It's not the model that anybody might necessarily say that they want, but I think a lot of people actually would say they want. Like, because when I got into this, I'm like, I'm not going to become a chef because I'm going to make a lot of money in 2001. I'm not going to go and be a line cook and be making the big bucks. Like, dude, you're cooking for rich people. If you're in fine dining, at the end of the day, you are a servant for rich people. And like, that, and it's part of the contract. You're not there to become a billionaire yourself.
So wait, I got to ask you a couple of questions. Sorry to stop you.
That's fine.
So going back a little bit here, you talked about when you started teaching yourself how to cook.
Yeah.
Now you, at least in some of the stuff you do, that you did in your businesses, and definitely like in some of the writing you've done, like the column you had, right? Yeah. There is a, today it's kind of assumed that anybody who calls himself a chef is going to kind of imprint their food with some personal something. But there could be an irreverence to your stuff. you really had a very distinct voice, I would say, that was sometimes, I mean this as a compliment,
No, I do. I
but
appreciate. It's just weird hearing somebody else say it, because it's a job to you. So it's always weird to hear the third party. Go
well,
ahead.
tell me if you disagree with any of it. But I think there's a lane of like this is the kind of the normal breadth of self-expression, and I think you were just kind of a little bit in the other lane, like a little bit in the fast lane, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the middle lane, and you were in the fast lane. I'm wondering how early in your own self-teaching and development, how early did that part of it start to become viable for you? Like, were you breaking some rules even when you were teaching yourself?
Well, no, I think at first when I was teaching myself, there was a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mm.
And there's still a ton of imposter syndrome. I mean, what imposter syndrome comes from the fact, like, if you're a curious person, you have a big reverence for learning, and all you can see is all that you don't know yet. And
100%.
and I love that about food, where I was like, if I do this every day for the rest of my life, I will know a billionth of 1% of everything there is to know out there. There is no way I could be an expert on this. And that's why you dive in, that constant challenge, but then also you forget how much you know. Like, I hate the concept of food trends. Oh, I hated them back then, and I hate them now. I hate them so much.
What do you mean though? Because stuff comes and goes, whether or not you call it a trend. So what do you mean
Yes.
by trend? You mean something that's a little more calculated and cynical?
Yes, I hate that. I hate food. Good food is good food, no matter where it exists in history or in space or in time. Sun-dried tomatoes, great, no matter the decade. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, we liked this, and now all of a sudden, oh, it doesn't taste good anymore. And if you're just chasing food, like, I hate trends to begin with. Like, I am not a person who has ever fallen into trends since I was a teenager. I don't like the idea of other people telling me what I should like or what I should be doing or what I should be buying. I want to make my own goddamn decisions, and I do. And if I like something, like, people are just allowed to like what they like. That's where I am in the world. I think a lot of people, especially women, we always apologize for liking stuff. Or we think like, oh, I like this, and it's not the same thing you like, so I'm sorry. And like, no, we're not supposed to enjoy all the same. Like, I hate rom-coms. Does that mean that rom-coms are bad? No, they bring tons of joy to other people. Let them like the things that they like.
It does throw your femininity into question, though.
Yes, it does. But like, I like the things I like, and anybody can like whatever they like, and they should enjoy it.
Right.
And the idea of trends, it's like, no, you need to like this thing now or this thing now, and it's corporations telling you what you should enjoy. Like, no, God damn it, think for yourself. Things like, when certain types of flavors, like, oh, we're all into Thai food now, and then suddenly, like, no, Thai is like, no, that's a whole fucking country. You don't just get to say you forgot a whole ass country and a whole ass industry. And then they're like, okay, so we'll just move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And when you do that, you leave a lot of economic carnage in your wake. Everybody should be enjoying a little bit of everything. There's so much stuff out there. And if you're a maker, you should just be focused on making good stuff, not playing to an algorithm, not playing to what the tech lords want you to do. That's not what food is about. Food's about us. Food's about, food's a friggin' gift. Without it, we die. And we create so much food waste. Restaurants aren't that old, guys. Restaurants, as a concept, are not that old. We're like talking less than 2 centuries. 300 years ago, it was just a tavern where you'd hitch up your horse. And
this is a major thread in the book I'm working on right now. Yeah. And I mean, and chefs, in the way that we're talking about them and what we expect from them, I mean, that's like mid 20th century.
We're making this up as we go along. This is a brand new chefs. When somebody called me a rock star as a chef once, I was like, I have stuck my arm in a floor drain to see if there was a dead rat clogging a pipe. And now you want me on and then I'm a centerfold in New York Magazine? What the hell? none of that is right. And all of these people who were in kitchens, like, again, we're there because we're neurodivergent at a time before neurodivergence is a thing. And everybody is self-medicating with all sorts of stuff. We're there working the night shift because we can't talk to people in daylight hours. And now you're like, you're on TV. Here's some money and some blow. Act like David Bowie in the 70s, like, and then people are like, if we don't do that, then we won't have a job. The world is madness. 15 years ago, I was being interviewed by magazines about, can women be chefs? Me and Amanda Cohen were like, everybody was interviewing us like, can women do things? And we're so past that now. And again, it's not 15 years ago is not that long of a time. Or even 10 years ago.
You think we're past that?
I think we're way past where we were 15 years ago.
Oh, I think that's true, but it's still incredible. It's so much. I mean, as I understand it from women I've talked to who want to be chef owners.
Yeah.
It's still harder for women to raise money.
Oh, yes. Oh, listen, we're not post-feminism by any means.
Yeah.
We are. I'd like to look back at it and go, okay, we did win something. The way the patriarchy works is like in 1980s, when I'm a kid, which I guess was a very long time ago, but like, they made movies about like working girl, like, oh, woman is having a job, or baby boom. Like, can a woman be a mom and have a career? Like, this was some newfangled wackadoo shit, like women having jobs that weren't a secretary. Again, not really long ago.
But who was the villain in Working Girl?
It's the other woman.
It's another woman.
It's another woman because.
And who's the white knight? It's Harrison Ford. I mean,
it's the guy.
It's crazy.
Because you have a workforce that's all men, and they're like, we're going to give one of the, like, there's room for one woman up here. One woman. So all the women have to compete to be that one woman. And like, I have had a long-standing policy. I do not talk shit about other women. Most women I meet, their favorite topic is other women. This is why I don't have a ton of girlfriends. But women are ingrained to do this. It is, we are going to take each other out because it's easier to talk shit than to do shit. Doing shit is really, really hard. So most people just like, women are so full of insecurities because the world wants us to be insecure, and it sells us everything, and it just does everything it possibly can to make us doubt ourselves at every freaking moment. That's the entire media and marketing machine, because if we're not insecure, we don't buy things. And then we feel terrible. So what we do is we talk bad about other women. So we feel like we're slightly better. Like, oh, well, like I might be a mess, but this woman is a little bit worse than me. And then women do that, and then they take each other out. And then the one who wins gets the one job at the table. We need to stop that. And now younger generations are maybe being a little bit better. I mean, the algorithms and everything are still trying to keep these girls insecure. But more and more girls are like, hey, what if we had all the spots? We don't just have to have the one.
It's become, a lot of people are much more inquisitive these days before they agree to be on a panel, let's say, right? They want to know, like, if you're like me, like if you're a, straight, white, male, right? Like you want to, oftentimes you'll be like, well, who else is on the panel? Because you want to make sure it's not going to be 5 people like you, right?
Yeah.
But the thing I always say in private conversation is, I always say, if you want to know if the organization or the person or whatever that's putting the panel together really means it, is there ever more than one woman on a panel?
Yeah.
Right? Is there ever more than one person of color on a panel? Because I think a lot of people, and listen, I mean, I've been on these planning calls, and it's like, they're like, oh, we got one,
Yeah.
we're good.
Exactly. And it took a long time to get that one. And now we're like, wait a second.
But like, if you're really, doing it in an organic, sincere way, you just sometimes might have more than one person that doesn't hit the same demographics that I do,
And when women realize, like, oh, wait, we're fighting for one spot, but we're over 50% of the population, then you start to realize like, hey, maybe we need to be working together and we need to be more supportive. And like when women take care of each other in a good way, like good things happen. And one day things are going to be even better if we keep working towards it. We are not the apex of anything. We hopefully in 100 years everybody will look back at everything that we're doing now and be disgusted by it. Disgusted by it. That I truly think in like 200 years people are going to look back at us and our meat industry specifically. And I eat meat, I will say that, but they'll look back at us and think that we were all just the most vile, despicable humans for all of this.
I believe what you just said. I think we're going to be drinking a whole lot less.
Yeah.
A whole lot less the more we are learning, medically.
Dude, I've been sober over 10 years.
I know.
I started the NA column at the Washington Post 4 years ago. Like when I started doing it, I didn't have enough brands to cover. Now there's too many brands. There's too many brands.
I think all that, but I also think sociologically, I feel like that line will always move.
Yeah.
There's stuff that will seem okay in the moment, jokes that'll seem okay in the moment. I'll tell you what though.
Uh-huh.
And I do think he might be the most gifted stand-up comic. Easily, I think he's certainly one of the 3 or 5 best of all time. But I'll give you an interesting comp, in my opinion.
Okay.
Eddie Murphy. I'm not saying Eddie was one of the top ever, but Eddie Murphy in one of, I forget which one, but in one of his feature stand-up, it was either Raw or Delirious.
Yeah.
He goes on this whole thing about gay men.
Yep.
Okay.
I remember that.
And at the time, nobody said a word.
Yep.
Everybody went to the movie.
Uh-huh.
I had friends who were gay. Nobody complained, Yep. And he has apologized for those things. If you watch them today, it makes the stuff almost basically unwatchable.
Watchable, yeah.
And what is interesting to me is in real time, the person who I think is, technically one of the greatest stand-ups of all time, Dave Chappelle. I think he's unbelievable. But if you look at the immediacy with which the trans jokes he made got pushback, major pushback. I think that is a step forward. And I do think, I think people who think that is, people are being overly sensitive or whatever, I think that stuff's going to age about as well. I think in 20, 30 years, that's even to people who were cool with it right now, I think it's going to age at least as poorly as that Eddie Murphy stuff did. But my point is, it's that line always seems to move in ways that a lot of you're just like, oh, this is harmless, And I have to say, in private life, with certain friends of mine, there is a teasing about, absolutely anything. My Judaism, like.
You're of a certain age, you still bust balls in a certain way. Like being in Brooklyn, growing up in Brooklyn, off-color jokes were the way that a lot of people broke the tension between their communities. Like New York City, remember, New York City's not an animal like anywhere else on earth. It is an experiment. They took a whole bunch of people from different countries and their families, not just people like back in the day where they'd have like these commercial ports. Like, no, whole families pulled up and starting new communities in a city on top of each other. It is a pressure cooker. It is a weird thing. And Manhattan was like, again, where everybody would come to go to work, but everybody lived in the outer boroughs. And things are very tribal out there. Like Italians settle in one neighborhood, Greeks, because you want to settle where your people are, where other people are speaking your language. So a lot of like the weird humor and things from back in the day, that was something that was easing very serious tensions in this country that were very new.
Yeah.
When a bunch of people are all off of a boat, they're all fleeing poverty and oppression that existed 100 years ago in a very different context. Things are a product of the time they're in. And now, because we, like, after the internet, we all got access to all the information. We can all learn about so much stuff, but there's also a whole bunch of crap out there. A lot of pushback is legitimate. A lot of pushback is bots. And that outrage machine, again, keeps people tuned in. It keeps people online. It keeps the tech guys getting more powerful and richer. It's very engineered. if there's one good thing that's happening in this wackadoo time, it's that the truth about the ugliness of everything is finally coming to the surface, and the way things work, and how absolutely insane they actually are. And it's like, okay, good, now everybody sees it now, like, good, let's fix it now, because if everybody finally sees it,
this is the upside. This is the upside of the internet, right? And of social media is I mean, this is the democratization of it. In some respects, I feel like is not good, because anybody, especially now with AI, anybody can put anything out there.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm worried about I'm worried about every election moving forward, because someone in theory could create a totally fake video on the eve of an election showing the other candidate like strangling somebody to death. And how do you get ahead of that in 12 hours?
The thing that I worry about isn't the video anymore. It's the fact that people are okay with that.
Well,
or the fact that we're like, we can't really believe anything. And we're going into a very weird world, which is why I think it's more important than ever that people go outside and start going to restaurants and cafes and coffee shops and parks and meeting other people and learning how to be human again. A lot of people, like when I talk to people on the road for work, a lot of them, at first, they seem really taken back that a person is talking to them. And then within like 15, 20 seconds, they light up. They light up just to have that connection again. It is something we so desperately need. And we've really lost. Once we started, back to my cooking and the irreverence and stuff and my hatred of trends, when we started consuming everything through our phones, we started like I'd created a couple of viral things, and people would come, they'd get the viral thing, and then you'd never see them again. Whereas that's not what I started the business for. I started it for community. I mean, I had regulars I was spending Christmases with that I've watched their children grow up. That was what restaurants were for. Restaurants were not to get rich. Restaurants were to give your people a place to eat. Now, I'm not telling people to go to restaurants to save the restaurants. I'm doing it to save yourselves. Like, that's where you build community. That's where you meet your neighbors. That is where we build the infrastructure that keeps all of us together. And when we've gotten to a point where we're like, no, it's about trends and marketing and just bringing people in and revenue and profit sharing and VCs and all of those, a bunch of 3-letter acronyms. Like, why are 3-letter acronyms besides SPG, or FIFA? Like, these things don't belong in our kitchens. We've lost the soul of it, and the soul is the people. So it's got to be like, all of this is mutual. Like the media, the customers, and the restaurants. It's not. Everybody's got to stop pointing to like that Spider-Man
listen,
meme.
I just delivered I've started doing a column at Fine Dining Lovers, and I should say it's owned by S.Pellegrino, which is one of our sponsors.
I love S.Pellegrino.
What's that?
I'd love like being an Italian girl in Brooklyn. We used to have a lot of S.Pellegrino in the house, and we mix it with a little bit of orange juice and make an orangina. Like I've very soft spot for S.Pellegrino.
But the column was about what I'm calling intentional dining, and the idea is, we all want to visit and check out the new place everyone's talking about. Certainly I do, as someone who covers the industry. But basically I was saying, if there's everyone should pick 1 or 2 restaurants they'd like to have around for a good long while and make a point of going to them, let's say X% of the time you go out, right? Like if you go out 5 times a month, one of those times should be to a place that you've decided in your mind you want to take a little bit of like ownership of, and because nothing makes you. I'm sure you could back this up as someone who's been in the business. Nothing I know makes a chef operator more bitter, I think is probably the word, or at least vocally bitter, than they say we're going to be closing in 3 months for good. And then all these people they haven't seen in 5 years reappear
shows up
and tell them how much they love them. And the thing all of these chefs have said to me is, if these people had just come once or twice a year, we wouldn't be closing, right? But
we
you
did
have
the
to.
closing of our bakery. People I'd never seen before. We were never busier. People lines out the door. Oh, we're gonna miss you. I've never seen you in my life. But you make the neighborhood look good. I'm like, oh, I made your property value go up. Good. I'm
Exactly.
proud. I'm happy for you.
No, but I think people, like, I have a list in my notes field on my phone, right? Places I want to try. I now have one of places I want to support.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm thinking, where do I want to go with so-and-so friend tonight or next week or whatever, and I'm going down my list, one of the categories, it's like Brooklyn, Chelsea, Lower Manhattan, and then it's just support,
It
right?
is.
And it's places I want to make a point. It's a short list because I'm one person. I don't have an expense account. It's my own money. But I am happy, as someone who loves restaurants, I am happy to sometimes be a little less than purely self-interested when I go to a restaurant.
Here's the thing, you're not being self-interested at all by doing that. If you are jumping from place to place, and again, there's no problem in enjoying some trends to see what the hype is about. There's nothing wrong with trying new places. Again, there's nothing wrong with this. But if you're only doing that, you are missing out on another core restaurant experience. And the idea of becoming a regular, like when I was a critic for The Infatuation for a bit, and I mean, I review stuff for a living. And when I review a place, I always go in with a why. I'm not just there to eat the food. It's why does this restaurant exist? What am I here for? Like, are you going there? Like, what are you trying to get out of it emotionally? And if you're going to a place and you're eating the food, but you're also getting to know the server, and you're also the feeling of being a regular at a place where they know your name, that feels like a hug. That really does. It makes you feel like you matter. To be able to watch people come and go, to be able to see the same familiar faces, to know the music and the vibe and say, oh, like, when you're going to a place that you've been before, you don't have to try, you don't have to dress up, you're not part of some bigger performance, like that some critic is in the side of the room, like observing all of you. It is like slipping into a pair of old socks. All of it is beautiful, and it is not selfish. It's just a different way of experiencing a restaurant. And you have to allow yourself to experience all different ways of eating. It's not always just about food as drama. Sometimes it's food as comfort. It's food as conversation.
It's the box the food comes in, which is what you're saying. This is part of my thing. Like, you go to a restaurant with any regularity, like, one could say, look, it's my time, it's my hard-earned money. I don't want to have to think about where I'm going. I'm just going to go where I feel like going. And that's, from a logical bottom line standpoint, that's true. But when you go to a lot of restaurants, it's no longer that your server, the joke as far back as maybe the 90s or as recently as the 90s, the early aughts, your server was an out of work actor or singer, right? But now there are people who really want to be in the hospitality business in the dining room. I don't just mean chefs and cooks. And they're not treating you the same way a customer at, like, a video store. What's a good example? The same way a customer like at Barnes and Noble treats you, right?
Yeah.
Or they're actually, they want you to be happy. They will go out of their way to make you happy. They actually want to know how you're doing tonight. This
it's
is
a great industry for people who are people pleasers.
100%. But my point is,
people who love it.
you're getting more from them than just the transaction, right?
Yes.
And I think it's fair for restaurants to expect and to be hurt when they don't get it, a little bit of loyalty, because that to me is what's gone out the window the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years. Is I think, to use a word you mentioned, our mutual friend Amanda Cohen, I was having this interview. On my old podcast, we're talking about this once, and she said restaurants are becoming disposable to people.
Yeah.
And the perfect word. And they shouldn't be,
No.
and they're not treating you like just a customer. And I think if you enjoy that feature of restaurants, you should adopt a restaurant or two and make a point of going. It's not like you're going to not have a great time if you love it.
No, it's like picking a sports team. It's having somebody to root for. When somebody's giving you a recommendation for something, it's it's something that they love and they're sharing this little bit of love for you. And it's something that would lead to like the death of word of mouth. And we used to live in like word of mouth. It wasn't sharing stuff on social media or the virality of it. It was like you saying, oh, I really love this family in my neighborhood, or this is my friend's sister-in-law, and she's really trying. Like, you see the heart and the passion and the humanity and the reason behind it. And that's why you're pushing it. Or you're like, I love my neighborhood and I want people to come to my neighborhood to support it, or for people to come out and meet their neighbors. Like, there's always a good reason behind it. And we've diluted word of mouth so much with the algorithms and the impersonalness of our phone and the internet. And like, we've gotten further and further away from what restaurants are supposed to be, which are like, they're places where you're cared for, where you're nurtured, where you're eating something and where you're going to be satiated. Even if you're challenged or you don't like it or whatnot, there's a very human reason behind restaurants, and you need to experience them as a human being. So I guess we just all have to try to be more human and remember what that's like, because we're losing that.
I'm going to leave it on that note.
Yeah.
You'll come back. We could talk all day, as I already knew.
I know. I have so many things to say.
All right, Allison, thank you for coming on the show. I will, of course, link to where people can find you, reach you, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe to collaborate?
I would love to collaborate. Email me at AllisonRobicelli@gmail.com. I just want to do cool things with cool people. And like, we're building a brave new world, and we're building a lot of new, exciting stuff. So, we should all be thinking a little bit differently. It could be a very fun time to be alive if we're smart about it.
And that is our show for today. Again, my great thanks to Allison Robicelli for joining us. And again, links to where you can check out Allison's work and get in touch with her if you like in the episode description for today's show. Please go check out Meez, the recipe operating system for professionals, at GetMeez, that's GetMeez.com/Andrew. Our thanks, as always, to S.Pellegrino for their longstanding support of the pod. And again, please hit those links in our episode description and look into the S.Pellegrino Young Chef Academy competition. If you are 30 or younger, I really think it's worth your time. Those applications are due next Tuesday, June 9th. Andrew Talks to Chefs is the property and a production of Table 12 Productions Incorporated. This episode was written, booked, edited, mixed, and hosted by me, Andrew Friedman. If you would like to support us, we ask you to do that by telling a friend about the show, posting about the show on social media, and or rating and or reviewing us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, which helps new listeners find us. And if you are watching on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. Our thanks as always to After School Special for our music. Please check out their album, Double Barrel Single Entendre, on iTunes. Please follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. The handle in both places is @ChefPodcast. Thank you for listening, and we will see you back here soon with another episode of Andrew Talks to Chefs.